Hello, a happy Friday, one and all. Hope everyone's doing well. Gary Turner here. Just going into the weekend, wanting to do one of my updated narrations because I've not actually recorded it, despite writing a blog back on the 19th of February, 2022, which is nearly 3 months ago, which is absolutely crazy. Why I do this is I like to try and make my content more accessible. So currently I'm going live to LinkedIn, Twitter, and to YouTube. And this live will be repurposed on the Activating Consciousness podcast, which you can find on your favorite platform. And you can also subscribe at hexochangenow.com should you be interested in getting occasional updates, a couple of emails a month from myself regarding my current thinking, podcasts, live stream conversations, and also offers to work with myself one-to-one, should that ever be of interest to you. So one other quick thing I just want to mention as well is that my good friend Joe Homstead and I are going to be co-facilitating the human development space. We are back and super excited in less than 3 months' time. Oh my goodness, it's nearly only 2 months' time. So we come together again in the beautiful Dorset countryside for a co-creative experience. Just really to slow down. 2 full days. Imagine having 2 full days to yourself without any fixed agenda, without any pressure, without the phone ringing 24/7. Really is a space for you to slow down, connect to yourself, connect to those that you're exploring with over those 2 days, and make of it what you will. You can present, you can listen, you can go for wanders with people in the 150 acres of land. It really is. It's almost like a retreat come gathering, and it becomes what we want it to become based on the people that are there. So it's very emergent, very exploratory, and just a lot of fun with some really great human beings. And again, you can see a little bit here about the impact of this co-creative experience on people that joined last September. And again, there's the wonderful Joe and myself. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen, and I will be sharing from Hexo. If you go to hexochangenow.com, you'll be able to find this particular blog under the blog section. And this is the blog I'm going to narrate now. And you'll be able to hear it on the Activating Consciousness podcast again soon. So this blog, written on the 19th of February, which is one day after my 13-year anniversary at my corporate employer, IMCD. Again, I always speak as Gary Turner. I never speak on behalf of my employer. This is still where we are in the current civilizational evolution, but that's all good. And it's called Smart Growth Meets Onlyness, 13 years on in my corporate career. So I've always been, myself, Gary Turner, I've always been a 4-year max person. Intuitively, I felt uncomfortable staying in one place or within one role for any longer than 4 years, as I felt I'd risk becoming stale. I have to be learning, growing, exploring new ideas, new paradigms, experiences. Anybody that even half knows me knows this is true about me. So some may see this as flighty or unsettled. I call it high growth and wanting to experience as much of this thing called life, whilst I'm lucky enough to be experiencing it. Yet I acknowledge my impulsiveness and my restlessness at times. Little did I know, nor did I believe when I started 13 years ago, yesterday, again, this is on the 19th of February when I recorded this, on 18th of February 2009, with IMCD Group under the stewardship and the now president of the US business, Marcus Jordan, that I would be working here 13 years later. And credit to Marcus, he's recently been promoted to Chief Operating Officer on the executive board of the company. So without even realizing it, I've been on a personal, inverted commas, disrupt yourself mission since 2009. Indeed, even since before then, and a nod to the incredible Whitney Johnson and her work, as I took the risk to set up a chemical distribution business with my previous boss back in 2004. Only 2 years into the latest personal disruption, which was moving from internal to external sales back at that time. As I listened to Whitney Johnson's latest book, Smart Growth, it is like my career mapped onto multiple concurrent S-curves of learning. If you have any curiosity, you may be asking why? Why did I stay, and why do I continue to stay? And why does IMCD still want me after 13 years? Also another question. A further nod to my personal inspiration, an ex-Apple executive, Nilofer Merchant, and her work around Onlyness. That spot in the world that only we stand, yet requiring the necessary social conditions to unleash one another's onlyness, is highly represented in my replies. Let me share some of the reflections through and this is my personal lens on the world as Gary Turner. Number one, whilst I can be deemed to be too progressive, innovative, and challenging at times, rarely to be honest, have I been told to shut up and stay quiet. I've silenced myself often, but never have I been told overtly to stay quiet. I've always had a voice, and I've always mostly felt that voice mattered. I acknowledge that not everyone feels as safe as I do to be courageous, yet I would invite anyone that's reading this, as much as you can, and that you feel safe, do use your voice. It is indeed needed. The world needs it. Number two, every time, as in genuinely every 4 years, I've considered leaving IMCD, my line manager at the time has listened to me, sought to better understand what I wanted to do, which was often about combining my various passions and talents. Over time, this has included diving deep into learning and development, organizational design, strategic advisor and thinking partner, supporting of senior leaders, culture change at a team level, and more, whilst getting the core job done, which, as it has been the last 13 years, this is an international product manager. And they have gone out of their way, to be fair, to let me shine in the most fulfilling way possible to myself, whilst adding value in multiple directions to the team and the wider organization. Point number three, there's an awful lot of space for people to suggest ideas and bring new ways of work or being to the fore. Not everything is possible to implement, you have to acknowledge that, but the very fact that there are no bad ideas makes for a far richer experience of work as part of this thing that we called life. And I emphasize that point really importantly. I'm totally bored of hearing about work-life balance. It is really time we started seeing work as part of life. Interestingly, values that the group now espouses, such as entrepreneurial and partnerships, are very well evidenced in my career to date with the company, as are local team values such as curiosity. Point number four. Over the last few years, as my consciousness has been remembered, as I've realized that I am in the incredibly fortunate position of being in the middle of one of the most extractive supply chains on the planet, chemicals and manufacturing. Fortunate as the previous 4 iterations of me have brought me to a place where I now, when this was written today on the 18th of February, 2022, have the deepest systemic, human and planetary clarity of what is possible, what our challenges are, and indeed how the very industry of which I'm part could be part of turning around our climate and social injustice challenges. Chemicals, you see, go into everything. Your mobile phone, your glasses rim, your windows at home, your cars that you may drive, your food, your clothes, literally everything. You cannot escape chemicals. Now, it's arguable whether that should or should not be the case, but let me just say to you that to work within an organization like IMCD that offers the creative and entrepreneurial freedom to imagine self and a role that I'm paid to do seems rare in an increasingly divided, short-term and myopic world. Now, this is a critical reflection. I offer what might seem to be a pretty healthy summary above, and it is. I have a lot of privilege and a less crazy made-up socialized barriers to navigate. Yet the inner work on my part and the active seeking of support at various steps of my personal life's journey, both within the company and more so externally, has been a critical aid. I've invested in personal coaches, developed my own vulnerability in sharing my personal story of adolescent bullying, self-harm, burnout, and low self-worth. I've created in-person events and supported humans on a one-to-one basis as a strategic advisor and thinking partner, both within and outside of my corporate employer. Also, as this post goes live on Saturday, the 19th of February 2022, yesterday I celebrated 13 years within IMCD, and today I'm 23 calendar months on, again when this was written, of going through testicular cancer surgery. One of the most transformational investments so far has been investing in a systemic guide in Samantha Sapaya, an incredible thinker, provocateur, and regenerative visionary who keeps me in check and gives me a brave yet safe space to unlearn my colonial mindset and supremacist ways, a sometimes painful yet freeing journey, and one that I feel more of my kinfolk would benefit greatly from. Check out Sam and her crew's company page at Possible Futures. Again, all of these hyperlinks you can find via my blog site on hexochange.now.com. I'll just pop that up again if you want to subscribe and again find any of these blogs and the associated links. The future. This is Gary's view of the future. Again, purely Gary's view based on working within a corporate extractive space and knowing what I know on the outside. Our global manufacturing, supply chain and consumer habits cannot sustain as they are. It is humanely and climatically impossible as is. Yet there is an incredible opportunity to reimagine connection, collaboration and cooperation within and across role, sector and geography in a way that has never been thought possible in over 100 years. Aided by technology and a pandemic that has put us on our backsides and made many realize what really matters when all is said and done, i.e. connection, community, access to basics such as food, water, shelter, etc. We are entering a paradigm, I believe, as Gary, of collective over individual, crowdsource over IP protected, commons-based over scarcity. Many don't see it yet, but it is coming, and the industry of which I'm part can, if it chooses, lead a genuine march towards being more nature aligned in all of its different ways. Now, I'm not utopian. There are a boatload of challenges ahead, not least the accidental and/or intentional greenwashing of huge parts of the supply chain. Yet I stay in my role and with the belief that being on the inside of the machine, as is today, is the absolute best place for me to be as I reimagine what the next 4 years looks like or could look like, based on the progress and team dynamic that Chris Young has fostered over the last 6 years, my line manager, and thinking collaborator of the last 5 years. We will only go from strength to strength while increasingly leading the charge on genuinely more sustainable and nature-aligned ways over time. I've not asked for permission to write this piece. This is Gary speaking as Gary. This is my lived experience, my spot in the world, and my reflection based on 13 years working within my current employer, IMCD. I know I'm blessed to work within the team that I work within, but I also know that there's an increasingly diverse crop of leaders and thinkers coming through the business, which is exciting to witness. Some reflective questions for you if you've got this far, and if you have, thank you. I really appreciate you being with me. What does your personal development cycle look and feel like? Are you at the phase where you now need to seek a change? When did you last feel fully seen as the whole human that you are? What was the situation and who was involved? What do you expect to be doing in 4 years' time from now? How intentionally diverse and inclusive is your personal and work networks? And what experience of life awaits you on the other side of your fears, your stories, and the untruths that maybe populate your mind? I'd love to hear from you if you feel moved to share, but in any chance, I hope you find some value in these reflections. I know that thanks to all of those people inside and outside of my current employer who have supported, challenged, guided, and listened to me over the past 13 years. Based on the last 4 years, I'm super excited and inspired to see what will emerge over the next 4. If you're curious about seeking one-to-one support for your own development journey, why not check out my website at hexochange.now.com. And you can also check out the following feedback from current clients and also from Paul McCarthy below. And this is actually quotes from people that I've worked with or I'm currently working with as a guide alongside them. The process is impacting other parts of my life, and I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. I'm not tired anymore. I get a nice calming energy throughout the day. I feel listened to. I love how you pick out key words. During our 3rd session, I found my why encapsulated in one sentence. This deep work into a wonderful space where I literally come up with an entire program will form the foundations of this particular person's program. I've never felt so fluid in my thinking. Gary has a unique way of compiling your output and presenting it back with a strategic focus. The process is incredibly insightful. Gary just listened and listened and listened. This allowed me to explore my entire story, which in turn led to my true why. And Gary playing back keywords and summarizing played a key part in me helping gain clarity and confidence in my own story. So I'm just going to stop the sharing. I hope you find some value. If you're listening to this on Activating Consciousness, do let me know what came up for you. Reach out, drop me an email at gary.turner@hexochange.now.com, Garry being my first name. Again, if you're curious, why not join us in person at the UK Human Development Space? It takes place across the 20th and the 21st of July, 2021. We'd love to have you come and join us, Joe Homstead and I. And yeah, just stay safe, stay curious. And I guess the big invitation here is, why not think, if you are working in a corporate space, you're working in a small business, you're working in collaboration with other humans, the grass isn't always greener. It can be hard when we're in a spot. It is horrible staring at toxicity at times, but as long as you feel safe, you have that brave agency within you to go and ask more questions, collaborate with people that don't look and sound like you, show up as fully as you can, is my invitation today. Be well, stay safe. Hope to speak to you soon.